welcome to my Soapy Kitchen. Today has been a day dedicated to soap making, and that has been so nice. I've been able to work in my soap kitchen, and I've been able to finish projects, and I've been able to create. And today we're going to be working on another one of those creations, and I'm really excited to try another type of black soap. Today we're going to be attempting a Bastille black soap. So here's the recipe and the instructions. Let's make sure I get it all in there for you. If you're interested, you can take a screenshot. This is just a test though. I don't know if this is going to work. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I have pre-measured my potassium carbonate or potash, Inorganic potash, and my water and my oils. Now, a Bastille soap is mostly olive oil, but we wanted to balance up our soap quality. So I wanted to add in some of the bubbly, conditioning, cleansing, and hardness factors that just doesn't come with a plain olive oil soap. I also did not add any renolytic fatty acids, so I left out the castor. It's quite expensive, and I'm not sure if this is going to work anyway. If it does work, if this goes as planned, we will be we will be doing it again, and I will add some new oils and things to the mix. So here is potassium carbonate. Now it has a pH of about 11. And this isn't going to hurt your skin, but if you snort it, it will definitely burn the nasal passages and cause some serious damage. So although it's not as highly caustic as potassium hydroxide, it's still fairly good at making soap, but it makes a specific type of soap, black soap. And it starts out white, but it turns black. Now, I may not have enough water here because you need to have enough water to dissolve all of your potash. I like how y'all says it better than potash. Potassium urate needed quite a bit of extra water, but that's neither here nor there because that didn't make soap. It's still not soap. I'll go get the sample I made. So here's our coconut oil black soap. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And I've been making some wonderful lavender creations with this. This is our mess made with potassium muriate, and muriate is the raw form of a potash. It's less pure than what we're using here, and it just didn't work. It didn't have the right pH. The pH was even lower than our potassium carbonate. K2CO3 for those of you. This is not KOH. KOH would be making this growling sound and spitting at us and maybe bubbling up. So if you're afraid of making soap because the lye you're using is so volatile and you love using black soap already, then come and give this a try with me. I'd be happy to share my recipes with you. These are early days. As I develop better recipes, I may write a whole book on all of my, well, it's a recipe collection. I already have written a book on sodium hydroxide soaps, and there are so many recipes in there. They were up on Demonoid for free. I posted my book on there. I got so much wonderful feedback from people around the world that I was really happy to share that information. So I might actually put my book up for sale again, but it's pretty crude. It's just, I don't know how to make an ebook, but maybe I'll sit down with, my brother was going to help me. He's very tech savvy. Now, one thing Ya says you can do with organic potash is you can just let it sit and ferment overnight. I'm not sure what she means by ferment other than, you know, continue to dissolve. Maybe organic potash, when it comes in, we'll have a look at it and see, you know, if it's yet a different kind of animal than our inorganic potash, which I'm sure it is, because I have seen the different stages that organic potash goes through, and they don't really look anything like what you're going to see today. Very different. When this starts getting crusty, we're going to move to outside smoking and crusty. We'll try adding a little bit of water, and what kind of water I have today is I have a lavender rosemary hydrosol that I just thought would smell really good. And since we've been doing so much with, and it's slightly warm, like it warmed up a little bit, but it's not hot. It's not hot. In fact, I can stick my finger in there and it's not gonna burn me. I'm just gonna wipe off my hand. If I actually start to feel any itching or burning, I will let you know. So, yeah, the neat thing about the coconut soap that I made is coconut black soap, North American coconut black soap, is that it takes about 2 weeks to cure. So it was still failing the ZAP test. I actually haven't gotten my pH calibrators done, but as far as you know, litmus tests and phenolphthalein indicators, it's well within the range of a hand soap or body soap. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our oils. So we've got olive oil and coconut oil, and that coconut oil is in there for bubble. Now if we want to add richness, we will definitely put in some castor oil next time. I'm really looking forward to seeing what some of my favorite ingredients do to black soap. I love beeswax in my soap. I love vegetable stearic. I love glycerin. And at this point, we're just going to be super fatting our soaps if it looks like they're making a good liquid soap, potassium soap, and instead of putting them into the formulation, because I'm not sure exactly what this is going to give me, because it's not exactly 3-2-1 like we used for the coconut soap. So let's go ahead and put in our potash and water and start the heating process. Now I just go ahead and lump it up to high and then turn it down when it starts to concern me. So let's make sure you got a nice close view of what's going on from start to finish, and hopefully I can eliminate all the shadows with my extra lighting that we have here. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this. We'll do a musical version for those of you who don't like to listen to me natter on. But I giggle a lot, I talk a lot, and some of it's soap related and some of it's just, you know, what do you feel about this or what do you feel about that? So we've had a really hard time this last week. So it's nice to be, our family's grieving right now. We lost a young person in our family, and he will definitely be missed. So having this distraction of my hobby, my YouTube channel, and my soap business really does help. It helps to focus on some of the things that I really enjoy doing rather than focusing on my loss. I mean, we have to deal with that eventually, and I am at times, but it's really nice to have a diversion such as this when things get hard. It's my go-to when parenting is hard. It's my go-to. Soap making and beauty craft making are my go-to for any stressful situation in my life. This is how I cope with life, the universe, and everything. So what do? I used to cook, but now that all my children are out of the house, it's really not that I have to eat it all, and I just don't want to eat it all. So it's looking like we have an emulsion already, which is really different than the coconut oil. We'll see what happens as it precipitates back out, which is bound to happen because that's what happened last time. But we'll see. Maybe things will be different. Maybe we won't even get soap. Maybe we'll get the best soap ever. But again, give your soap some time. Don't get frustrated and say, oh, I cooked it, it came to gel and it got all like yours looked and it's still caustic. Well, make sure that you give it time to finish. Unlike other types of soap, I'm noticing that the black soap needs a little more time. Now this is not smoking, this is just evaporation, normal evaporation. So I don't have to move outside. As soon as it starts to get smoky, we're gonna move this outside. I won't take you into the rabbit barn, so you don't have to, you know, see all of our traps and our ramp and our animal mess and the spider webs. But I'll just take it to our family size picnic table in the back, which my son made for me. It's funny because we used a kit and bought lumber, but we wanted it extra big because we've got a very large family. I have 6 children, and those children have siblings now, and not siblings, spouses, and we don't have grandchildren yet, but I also have cousins and nephews and things, and nieces, so it's nice to have that extra space for an alfresco meal to share together. But because it's a standard frame, those extra long boards we put on it make it tip if you're not balanced within the whole system. So I warn my family when they come over and we're having a barbecue or, you know, just an outdoor meal. This is still just steam. Just steam. And I'm constantly stirring because I know what's coming. Things are going to get very different very quickly. And you don't want any popping. So if it becomes too vigorous, just turn down your heat. Just go ahead and turn it down. You know, we need a lot of heat though, and this will actually, the heat gets to a point where it will actually break down your silicone spoons, so you're going to have to sacrifice some spoons from time to time. They don't actually dissolve into it, but it does crack the material because you're going to be going in excess, I guess, of 400 degrees, which is the smoking point, is how I know that we're going to be hitting those high temperatures eventually. All right, so we're at a boil, so I just want to maintain that boil, so I'm going to move it to medium now. Just because I know once we get to the point where it's, you know, really doing its thinness, it foams up, and it's just very violent reaction once it starts smoking too. Now, to reduce smoking, I have been advised by my teacher to just add more water as you go. So you're going through this saponification process. We're already getting a few bubbles, which is kind of cool. So we're saponifying slowly. Now, this is not the type of soap that I believe you could do in a cold process. I can't even imagine it working in a cold process because to make soap you need to set off a reaction. Now, caustic sodas do that even at room temperature. They have such a high pH that they react and create their own heat. Well, there's so very little heat actually produced by adding the water to the potassium carbonate that you just don't get that reaction even when you add your oils. I mean, I had it sitting there to test that, and it didn't even melt the coconut oil. So if you're going to be doing this from start to finish and you don't want to have to move your project, just get yourself a hot plate and plug it in outside, which I have ordered a hot plate, but I haven't figured out the logistics of plugging it in and getting all the way out to my yard. So we're, like I said, we're going to start inside and we're going to move outside. And when we get that like soapy smoke starting, I'm going to add a little more water just to keep it from doing that too quickly, to see if we get a stronger gel reaction, a stronger gel stage than we've had in the past. Now, when I was working with the coconut oil, at this point, it was doing what the beginning of the video, my initial reaction with the, my initial experiment with the coconut oil, or this soap, is it separated out into its salts. So we'll see if that happens here. So far it's not doing that. It's acting more like a cooked sodium soap, which I've done lots of. Now when you want to use your soap right away, you can put it through the hot process, the cooked hot process, not the countertop hot process, and your soap will be ready to use within 24 hours because you have evaporated out all that excess liquid. Whereas when you're just doing a countertop hot process, you're not getting all of this liquid out, not the same way as when you put it through the cooking process. So if you want soap quick and you like hot process and how it looks, it's very rustic, it's very nice, but it's not something that you can do swirls and designs with very easily. It's also harder to rebatch because all of that liquid is just out of there. So I'm just going to be quiet for a little while, well, unless I think of something to fill the silence with, so you can hear the soap bubbling and cooking. They're still emulsified. This is really different. Kind of loving it. We're also using less potassium carbonate because we're using a 1.5 instead of a 1 as compared to the potassium hydroxide. Now if we were doing a 1, 2, 3 formulation, there would be a bit more of it. It's about 20 grams less than what I would normally use for 300. Well, it's about 70 grams less of the potassium carbonate than I've used for the coconut soap. I tried to stay as close to the African recipe for my first try. Let's see what happens here. This is a soap calc try. Recipe based on soap calc. Now, if this does work, we'll be able to make unlimited variations of black soap with the available oils that we have. And because we're so privileged here in North America, we have access to oils from all over the world at fairly economical prices too. So if you find you like making black soap, you can make a unique product that's not found anywhere else, which is really rare in the soap industry, even the handmade soap industry. It'll be interesting to see what happens when all my water's gone. That's when you'll probably start to see the separation, I'm guessing. Now steam can be quite hot, so be careful and use a nice long handle. Now for a 300 gram batch, I use a large kettle. If you're going to be making bigger quantities of soap, this type of black soap, then you're going to need a really big kettle, something this size over here. Like I could use my lid for my steam canner, because you need this to be able to rise. I mean, it's going to rise to probably about there at some point, but at least double to triple what your volume is. So start small, understand what your formulation is going to do when it goes through the saponification process using potassium carbonate, and then build your volume from there, because this is very hot and you do not want it spilling over onto your skin, because it will burn you because it's very, very hot. And that's one thing I noticed about the black soap when I was potting it, is that it was almost too hot to pot. I couldn't take a little bit of a sample in between my fingers without, you know, feeling the burn. So move slow. It's a different kind of caution in this soap making process. Now, when it stops bubbling, that's basically going to tell me that my water is gone. Okay? It's still boiling hot. In fact, it's probably far, far beyond boiling hot. It's going to be scorching hot soon. I just can't believe how it starts out so light, like almost a cream color or a white color, and turns so black, so beautifully, beautifully chocolatey black. I mean, it's a decadent soap. I think I've been in love with black soap since I got my first sample. I started importing it in or buying it from the States from importers in 50-pound lumps. It's just the most amazing stuff. Now I'm going to also do probably a mailbox minute, if I haven't already, where I share some of my soap suppliers, Baraka, new product, their black soap that they're importing in from Ghana. And there's like 5 different types, so I made sure I got some of all of them to show you what the ladies in Africa are up to. Some wonderful, talented soap makers who've been making this type of soap in the organic potash way for generations. You know you're learning from the best when generations have passed down their knowledge. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel like I'm doing with my experiments with potassium carbonate. Now I'm not going to bother using my stick blender this time. I think that friction is also supposed to, you know, speed up the process. But I think it was just too dangerous to advocate using it, because this is very, very hot and it will spurt out, right? And that didn't happen to me, but it nearly did a couple of times. And I was like, oh, that's kind of danger, Will Robinson. So, wow, we're looking really jelly here. This is gorgeous. I'm loving this. Look at that. Look at the jelly, liquidy gorgeousness. Of course, it just might be my oils, but no, it's starting to smell like soap. We're getting the scent of soap. And we're getting our separation now, all of a sudden. We're running out of water. You'll see a clearing before the smoking starts. But these fatty acids are definitely working. They're acting different than the coconut oil. I mean, you can still see all the way down. Gotta love it. This is awesome. Now, for those of you who don't know, Saskatchewan in Canada produces the most potash. We export the most potash in the world. Like 70% or 80%. Something horribly, terribly high. Maybe it's just 60%. But a vast majority of inorganic potash comes from here. However, organic potash is something you have to make yourself if you live in North America. And if you want to watch some videos on how to make organic potash, go to any Pioneer Soap video here on YouTube and they'll show you how to leach ashes and all of that. Because that's the process that we're talking about. Now I've moved it down to medium-low, so we've reduced our heat. I'm still not really seeing any separation or condensation of my salt, which is very cool. Or maybe I am. It helps to be able to know what to expect as you create. Yeah, we're getting condensation, I think. Well, I'm going to heat up some water or hydrosol because I don't want to add cold to hot, or we're going to spatter to the moon. I'm going to get this going in the microwave. I've got a nice hot hydrosol if I choose to add additional water at some point here. You hear that popping? Turn down your heat if the pops go up high enough to pass the danger zone. So this is a real-time soap making project. I'm going to try to keep the camera on it the entire time we're cooking the whole cook. Got a new phase here. We've got little bits of almost starting to get a little bit crusty. Is that a word I could use here? It looks like cracklings. So I'm going to say crunchy. You know, if you're doing cracklings with pork fat, that's what it kind of looks like right now. We're just kind of moving it around. We're not vigorously stirring or using an immersion blender. We're just cooking this up, but it is changing color. You see how it's going to from ivory to gold. We're not quite at amber yet though, but I'm sure we're going to get a different black soap. I can't wait to see what it does, what color this one makes. Now, depending on where you buy your black soap from Africa, the color is different from region to region because of the materials and the method that they use. I mean, it's all basically the same, but if they take the black soap that they've made from plantains or plantain potash or cocoa potash or bamboo potash, it can be bleached in the sun to make it lighter, it can be cooked to a certain point that it's lighter, because the more you cook it, the longer you cook it, the more it smokes, the darker it gets. Now, I really couldn't slow down the process when I was doing the coconut oil one. So, as long as I don't have to add water, I'm not going to here. Now, I stopped the process when the salt separated, and then I started again. I hadn't really cooked it even this long, but for some reason today, the weather, I just lost my lights. I'll bring you right back. All right, now just a couple of seconds, you can see that we've gone through to a new phase. We're getting bubbles. That's pretty cool. So here it's going to rise. This is a foaming phase. If it follows the African or organic potash, you giggle.
I can't connect to the Wi-Fi network.
Oh my gosh.
You might want to check the connection settings in the Google Home app.
Hey Google, be quiet.
I can't connect to the Wi-Fi network. You might want to check the connection settings in the Google Home app.
I'm going to unplug whoever she is. Now that happened because we lost power. I live in a very old house, and if you overload the circuits, they just click off. Now, most of the black soap recipes I've seen, it's really hard to see what's going on. So hopefully as I get better at this, I'll be able to show you the different phases. So when you decide, or if you decide you want to try this yourself, you'll have an idea of what to look for and how to know if you're going in the right direction or if you're doing things right. Now, I have watched people actually yesterday on the African Black Soap Facebook channel, which my teacher Ya hosts. I have seen people attempt this process in a crock pot with a lower heat. I haven't done that yet. I will definitely give it a try, and that will be one of the things that you'll get to see here. It does take a lot longer, but I'm guessing this process is going to take us at least an hour and maybe a bit longer. But the soap that I saw that was made had been cooking for 16 hours. Now, I personally, with a reactive product like this, would need a really big crock pot to trust it even on low. So I like to be able to look at what's going on and see how my soap is reacting before I trust it to cook on its own. So definitely, use your own whatever you're feeling comfortable with. Now, I've been making soap for nearly 30 years, and even I feel that way about it. So, I mean, this is like a 3-gallon pot or 2-gallon, I don't know how big it is. It's a fairly big one. It's a big soup pot. And a 300-gram batch is already foamed up to here. Look at that. It's almost halfway up. So make sure you've got lots of overflow room or a tight seal on that lid. And with that lid being on it, you're also going to have less of a moisture loss. So you're not going to be seeing this kind of high heat reaction without any water in it. You're always going to have water, likely, even after 16 hours. But, ooh, it's getting crusty again. I'm not a huge fan of olive oil, the smell of olive oil while it saponifies. But this doesn't smell bad at all. I kind of like it. I kind of like it a lot. Although I did use virgin coconut oil. That is my favorite oil in the world, is virgin coconut oil. If I had to give up everything, including butter, I would be okay if I had virgin coconut oil. I can cook with it. I can do body care with it. I can do just about anything I want with it. I love that stuff. And about 15-20 years ago, it used to be really expensive, and it's so nice to see coconut oil producers able to offer this beautiful product to everybody. I mean, I used to spend $10 on a little 2-ounce jar. And you can still do that even today, but you don't have to. You can go to Costco and get 2.3 kilos for under 20 bucks. Now we have a little bit of sandiness. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, it's definitely sandy. It's not mashed potato. And I'm not going to turn this up. It's still really, really hot. We're going to cook it slow. Cook it on low. Now we are starting to smoke already. So I don't know how long I've got. I may have to switch to outside. And I hope it finishes cooking like it did the last time. I'm going to go ahead and open up my windowsill. At the first sign of smoke. You don't want to set off your alarms. So this is looking mashed potato-y, which is a phase of making potassium or sodium hydroxide soaps the cooked method, which again is different from countertop hot process. This is cool. It doesn't seem to take much longer either. This is completely different soap we're getting here. This is pretty awesome. Things are changing. My bubbles are going down. It's not soap yet, guys. It's still more like that weirdo this stuff. But this didn't actually, even by the time it got that dark, do this. It just had a little bit of crustiness. So I'm sure there are soap particles in there, but they're so few of them that it's more like a scrub, a salt scrub, a moisturizing salt scrub. That's a little bit higher than it should be to be considered skin loving. The last I checked on that one, it was not skin safe. It was not passing the ZAP test or any of the other pH indicator safety tests that I regularly do with all of my soap. There's always a chance that you will mismeasure or leave something out. So always, 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 even if you've made the soap 100 times, check your pH. Make sure that it's skin safe. Now we get away with a lot. Homemade soaps are a higher pH than any detergent out there. I mean, they have to get their pH down to like 5 or less, 4 to 5, sometimes 6. But some surfactants, some synthetic detergents, rather, everything's a surfactant, and I mean this is a surfactant, will be higher. Not all of the body washes on the market are mild. You definitely have to, okay, we're getting smoke, to be careful that they work for your skin. We're at the smoking stage. Now I'm just going to add the smallest amount of hot water, and this is hot water, not cold. Let's see if that reduces some of our smoking. Okay, so tiny bit. See, I knew it was going to be a violent reaction. Let's mix this baby in. Ooh, that's hot. That's hot. Whew, look at those bubbles. Look at those bubbles, baby. That was a good idea. Now I just put a little tiny bit, and we're seeing gel here. This is gel base. Looking, it's shiny and soapy and pretty. Wow. This really, really wants to be soap. I'm liking the Bastille formulation. I'm also liking how well it's working. But it's completely different. I'm gonna have to make a soap recipe for you each time for these organic or these potassium carbonate. The fatty acids are changing how it reacts, and that's really fun and exciting. Definitely reduce the smoking. We're going to get a longer cook, which only means that the saponification is going to be more complete. So we definitely don't have homogenized. There, we've got a separation of oil and water. Keep cooking. Keep cooking. I want to do that again, just a little tiny bit. I love chemical reactions. They are the coolest thing. Again, just a tiny bit. Ounce or less. Should love playing with me in my Soapy Kitchen. Isn't that gorgeous? And I am just playing. I'm just kind of putting off the final stages of my cook by adding water, because you want as much water out of it as you can, so you have a nice, soap paste. Now you can cook it until it's powder, but that's definitely going to have to happen outside. I love it when it's like this. This looks so cool. This looks like mashed potato phase in sodium hydroxide stovetop method. Cooked method. Okay, looks like I'm not going to be able to put it off much longer. We're getting a crusty top, which looks like it wants to finish up. So, but it's fine to keep adding water if you want to keep it light. Maybe, I don't know if that will work. Maybe that's what we'll try with this, just so I'm having so much fun with it. So I'll just keep adding water when it gets smoky, and we'll see if we get a lighter finished product or not. But it's definitely finishing up. It's saponifying. Now these have a high smoke point, so a higher smoke point oils, I'm guessing, and this is just a theory at this point, are going to be a lighter soap too. I love the smell of that rosemary and lavender. And I have to thank my neighbor for providing the botanical matter for the hydrosol. Now, because this is a plant matter hydrosol, we may get some darkening as well, because there are nutrients in there that don't have the high smoke point. So I'm going to eventually have to go outside and finish this up there. but it's definitely turning into soap. This is nothing like the muriate, and very close to what I witnessed with our first attempt using the basic African ancient recipe that is used for organic potash, which is the 3-2-1 rule. So 1 part potash, 2 parts oil, and 3 parts. Ooh, look at that mashed potatoes. 3 parts water. We're definitely more than 3 parts here. We're less than 1 part in our potash. We're getting a very interesting looking black soap. Now, if you look in the description, I will link where the name comes from. There's another one of my black soap spoons. We want to get all of that in there. Make sure it all continues to cook. Yeah, it's starting to turn into a soap paste or gel, but I am going to continue to add hydrosol until I've used up everything that I had intended to, just to see if we get a milder end product than we had, and a lighter product, because it's supposed to, like I said, like Ya taught me, it's supposed to slow down the smoking. This is really hot. So the bonus of going through this is I can stay inside and soak without setting off my my alarms. But as you can see, it's still getting darker. It's probably going to be an amber rather than a chocolate. But at this point, I don't know. We will just have to see. Because this is an experiment. My lovelies, this is an experiment. See, it does pop. I nearly got popped there. I'm not turning it down though because it's already low. But I will, look at that gel. It's not looking like, it's looking like gel. We're getting a soap. You see that gel? This oil, this olive oil, works a little more smoothly with the inorganic potash than the coconut oil did. We'll see what, excuse me, we'll see what kind of lather we get. That might be, because there is a little bit of coconut oil in here, but it's not a high bubbly formulation. I think the range, the yield on the bubbly scale is 17 in this recipe. It's got 16, that creaminess. Of course, that comes from the olive oil. Of course, it's not going to be very hard. That's a 33 in this formulation. But it's got lots of iodine. And that's a good thing too. There's lauric acid, myristic acid, palmitic acid, stearic, oleic. That's the majority, about 54%. 54. Linoleic and linoleic fatty acids in here. Or, yeah. Look at that, it's changed again. This is so fun. So I'm going to scooch out a little bit. give you a slightly different perspective. And so you can have a good view of my messy Okay, once again, we've got all of our water out. I'm going to add some more. See that reaction? But we have nearly finished cooking this. It's definitely added gel, and it's definitely what I would say done. We're not going to have to go outside, it looks like. So very, very cool, and it definitely smells like soap. That is a beautiful soapy aroma we're getting without it being like cough in your face kind of smoky. So if I leave it here, it'll probably be a more liquidy soap, so I can cook off some more of that liquid if I want. It will get darker. But I think what I'm going to do is put the last of the water in. Let it heat up before I stir, because it always volcanoes. I think that my favorite part of this soap are the volcanoes. Because I always animate my volcanoes in my tabletop processed soap. We've got a beautiful gel, and I can't wait to see. As soon as this goes from taffy to kind of brittle, I'm going to go ahead. See, it evaporates really fast, guys. Definitely a fast evaporation. So I'm going to turn off my heat entirely and just move it around a little bit. Look at that gel. We've got a beautiful gel phase with the ratios of the organic potash that we use, the potassium carbonate, and the olive oil and coconut oil. I just want to make sure everything is... We've got a beautiful soap paste here. Look at that. Just beautiful. There's quite a bit of water in there because I added a lot of water. Now, if you want to make a liquid soap, then you just add more water. This is not going to go hard like a sodium soap. It's going to stay liquidy. Now, if you want it to be a little harder, you can add a little bit of sodium soap to it to make it a heavier, thicker brick. But I think we're going to have some pretty gorgeous soap here. Now you can keep cooking this and getting it darker and getting it more black, and so it becomes a powder. I don't know if you can see, some of these are starting to get like that powder soap. It's just getting more and more of the liquid out to create it, and I'm not really sure it's worth all the smoke to get that, but to each his own. I don't have a purpose for it, but at some point I might change my mind entirely and I will bring you back and explain why. I like it. I actually did buy some black soap powder. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I know all it is it's black soap, this type of soap, but made with organic because it's from Africa, organic potash. It doesn't smell like it's burning. I really like this Bastille black soap. I really like it. And it's going to have a really pretty speckled look because I'm continuing to cook it. So these are drier bits, and they're going to add some beautiful texture and color to my soap, whereas this is pretty uniformly colored because I don't know why it is, but it is. It's like uniformly chocolate. This one's going to have all this drier soap because I cooked it longer. And I managed to stay inside with my soap merely by adding water when it starts to smoke. You can still get all of that water out, and it will continue to evaporate out as you dry it and let it cure. The curing is not saponifying. Curing is just the water evaporating. That's so cool. All right, if you enjoyed this, please click like and subscribe. And I'll bring you back in a minute after, well, I'll bring you back in a couple of hours once it's cooled in the container that I've chosen. Okay, I'm going to show you how awkward this is to pour it into the container and how hot it is. So if you don't feel confident handling it, just wait till it cools in the pot. Me, I'm impatient to test it out and see, and I've just got a tiny bit. It's not like I have a big vat of soap. I'm anxious to do a bubble test. So anxious. Now I found with the coconut that it got more bubble as it sat. So I'm gonna let that cool, and I will scrape it. Look at this beautiful black soap. Like I said, it's super hot. Now, if you doubt me about the hot temperatures, just check out that silicone right there. This was used to make a single batch, but I let it get a lot hotter than this one because I was just doing what you do. when you do it the first time, you make a few. So I thought it would be fun to show you how bubbly our Bastille black soap is. And this is our soap pot. We're gonna wash some dishes with it. So bubbly, so beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this and you come back and learn more about black soap, both made here in North America and also in Africa, of course. Now this recipe can be made with black soap that you've made yourself or black soap that you've purchased from Africa. You'll have the same kind of results. All right, if you want to learn more about African black soap, please go to the Ghana Soap School. I highly recommend it. Bye for now.